I'm back. So, I was just on a second ago and it just said broadcast failed. So, I have no idea what happened. So, hopefully, those of you that were on will be able to join again pretty quickly so that we don't have to lose any time. Hey, Cassandra, it just dropped on me. So, hopefully, we don't have any major issues because it just said broadcast failed. So, I've never got that message before. So if you do know why it would have said something like that, hey Remus, broadcast failed, then let me know because maybe I did something wrong, and I can fix it for next time. So, the love lesson is why women always think they're right. I do plan on having Ryan join me. Hopefully, he sees me go on again and we can talk about this because I do like to have the male point of view as much as possible. And all I am doing, just to be clear, I don't consider myself an expert on relationships per se. I my focus has been purpose for a really long time, finding a career driven your purpose driven career, and I just decided to talk a little more about relationships recently because I want to write a book about it next year. So the book that I have now is called There's More in You, and it really takes you through a spiritual journey and finding your purpose, finding the greatness within you. But I really want to talk about relationships next. Hi, Kyra. Hi, Miss Craig. If I'm missing people, I'm sorry. And hopefully, Ryan, I didn't miss you. So, if Ryan, if you came on while I have been rambling, then please say something because I definitely want to bring you on as soon as possible. I don't know if that's what caused a failure, but I had a failure the last time. So, again, I'm doing these videos because I am basically brainstorming for another book. So there he is. Let me try it again, Ryan, and hopefully I don't lose you.
Hi, I'm not hearing anything. Can you hear me? Hello?
I just turned the Bluetooth off, so can anybody hear me?
Okay, I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but it sounds really bad. Deborah, you still don't hear anything?
I'm he- I'm hearing you.
Okay, was that a heart saying you can hear me? So can anybody hear me?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you saying it. It just doesn't sound very clear. Hi, Michael. Can anybody hear me? Yes. Okay. Thank you, Deborah. You are a saver. The connection is bad. Cassandra, you still can't hear me? Because I turned this thing off. Um, Let me see if I connect my other. Ryan, can you say something? Or you
Hello.
can't hear me?
I can hear you.
You said you can or you can't?
Can you hear me?
Huh?
I can hear you. I'm hearing you pretty good.
Okay. I can't hear you very well. How do you have yours connected?
Um, my volume is up. Everything is
Okay.
up. Everything is clear.
Okay, you're sounding better now. Let me put my we lost. Let me see. Okay. So how's it sound now? Anybody that's still on? Because I know we lost some people. They were like, I don't have time for that. Mic check. How's it sound now?
It's very clear.
Okay,
I
good.
can
I
hear it
think we're
very
good. I
well.
can hear you very well too. So we're good. So Kyra, hopefully we're better with the connection now. I think I had these Bluetooth connected. So that's where I think I went wrong. And nobody said anything at first. So surprised they didn't say, I can't hear you. But anyway, they were just on here saying hi, I guess. But I just talked about what I was talking about while no one could hear me was that I am doing these Facebook Lives as basically pre-writing for a book that I plan on writing called Love Lessons. And at this point, I don't consider myself like an expert in relationships, but this is an area I'm venturing into. I have a lot of ideas about it, and I want to share some of my ideas. So this is definitely like, as if you have been following, you should have noticed that I talk to different people because I want to hear different perspectives. When I started, it was really geared towards singles 30 and up, but I'm noticing like married or single listening. So, that tells me something in preparation for writing a book. So Ryan here, he is in his 40s. He has a career. I think it was well, I'm going to just ask you because I hate to get things wrong. So what's your career in?
I'm, I'm an electrician.
Electrician. I was going to say engineering. I had a feeling. So he's an electrician and he is married. He is a newlywed. So everybody give a shout out to Ryan for being a newlywed. Congratulations for that. So he wanted to join me on
Thank you.
this topic of love lessons, why women think they're always right. This was inspired actually by my cousin. I tried to tag him in a previous video, so hopefully he's able to see this one. Um, because this was the first thing that he talked about when I decided to write this. To like, I was just writing out some topic ideas. He was talking about accountability, why women are not accountable, is what he was saying. So women definitely feel to chime in the comments because he said this a few times. Every time I would talk about topic ideas, he would always talk about women not being accountable for their actions and basically double standards when it comes to women. So, hey, First Lady. So, I definitely wanted to talk about this, and I have a few ideas for one of the reasons why I believe that women think they're always right. And then as we go along, then feel free to. Let me ask you this before I give my first point. Have you had any experience with women? Not saying your current wife, I don't want to get you in trouble. So, any experience with women in the past where you felt like you weren't being heard, or you felt like that no matter what you said, she was going to think that you're right, that she's right?
Yes, yes, I did.
So, tell me more about that.
I
Do you have any
had
examples?
there. Um, I'll share one at my wedding reception. The matron of honor, she was giving her speech,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the things in her speech was that I'm supposed to tell my wife she is always right.
Okay.
That was the speech.
That
And
was
I
a
was like,
speech.
really? Yeah, that was a part of the speech. That she's always right. And I'm like, really? Why is that she's always right? I don't get it.
Did she explain, or did
No
everybody
person,
applaud, or how did it?
everybody wanted me, most of the women wanted me to say, she's always right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So did she explain why you're supposed to say it, or she just said, bottom line, she's always right. That's it.
Always right about everything.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
So
she's always right. That's it.
so men, if you've experienced this, then definitely support Ryan. He said this just happened. So that was his advice as a newlywed, that she's always right. And I know I see at least one person on here. Hey, Dr. Tyus, that's also like a newlywed. Hey, Reginald. Hey, Charles. So if men are experiencing this, then definitely comment and let me know, because I want to know if this is a topic that I need to include in the book or not so much. So, what I will say, the number one thing is that women, sometimes we seek, this isn't even something that I wrote down, so this is just something that's coming to me when you said what you said. The first thing I thought about is the need for validation. Is that at times women just have an emotional need to feel validated, to feel reassured, to feel secure. And I talked about this before, as far as the natural need for women to uh, feel secure. Like that's what women primarily, one of the things that we really want is to feel secure. And sometimes a role of a man is to provide that. And I say sometimes because that is not in all cases. I'm not saying that women are insecure by any means. Like, not, I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that women like that feeling of security. But my first point was not necessarily that. It was that sometimes emotions really don't make sense, and you're not going to understand what, like, why does she need to feel this security? Why does she need to feel this validation? Like, sometimes it's not really going to make sense. And I have heard men say that they've tried their best to give the validation. They've tried their best to give the security in every way that they know how. And for them, it just doesn't seem to be enough. So I'm not sure if that is something that you've experienced, Ryan, or any of the men watching have experienced. And women, definitely, if you disagree, I definitely want you to comment, because there are men that's really wanting to know um, why women are just insistent upon certain things. And I know one example of this: when I was younger, I was like married at a really young age. I'm no longer married, but I was married at a really young age. And it would have been helpful for him to give me the validation that he heard what I said, um, that he heard what I said by not necessarily saying I was right, but giving me the impression. I mean, I don't even know if that makes sense. Like that he understands what I said, because if he, back then, if my ex-husband would have just, and which he did do most of the time because he was young too. So just completely disagreed with me, told me I don't make any sense, told me like I sound stupid, like, which is borderline abusive. But if you're saying those kind of things, that just brings fuel to the fire, because I'm looking for validation of my feelings, not so much of the actual point, which logically may make no sense at all. But like my feelings matter.
Even though that is so, I think a lot of times it has a lot to do with insecurities as well.
Yes.
And it also have to do with personalities, because there are some women who are.
I don't know if it froze, Ryan. Can you hear me? What he just said, are you there? There you are.
In yeah, I'm
Okay.
here. In our society today, the way society has things, they have everything mixed up. They have gone away from what, and I don't want to make this song religious, but they've gone away from what the principles of the Bible lays down.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is that no human being is always right, whether
Right.
male or female. None. Um, the reality is that because of some person's personalities and how they are, they it is like, you know, if I say something, I'm right. I'm right about this. I'm right about that. I'm right about this. If you challenge that,
Mm-hmm.
then you become the enemy, really and
Mm-hmm.
truly. And as Charles said, Charles made a very important comment. He said he'd been in relationships for years,
Mm-hmm.
and at no time at all have a woman said, I'm wrong, and apologize
Mm-hmm.
in any
That's
of his
terrible.
relationships. And there are a lot of situations like that,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of people have insecurities, one, and this has to do with past relationships as well. And people begin to condition their minds to certain things. This is not happening to me again. I'm not giving up my, let's say, myself
Mm-hmm.
to another person to control me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to have my chest up, and I'm going to be, strong.
Yes.
I'm, I'm going to say this, and I'm right, regardless of whatever you say.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean anything to me. That more or less borderlines on selfishness.
Yeah, it
It
does.
borders on selfishness. It's very, very selfish. And with a mindset like that, a lot of people don't stay in relationships very long, because those types of relationships become toxic,
They
very, very
do.
toxic. And they are not happy relationships. The reality is that when a person understands that humility is extremely important in any relationship, whether it's friendship, whether it's marriage, whether it's um, a normal relationship, it does not matter.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a humble spirit
Mm-hmm.
and you understand that I can be wrong and you can be right,
Mm-hmm.
and you can be wrong and I can be right, goes a long way. The problem is we don't
You're frozen. There you are.
we don't do that. And that is a massive problem when it comes to I am always right and you are always wrong, because we are not listening to each other.
Right. You brought up so many things. I'm trying to remember some of the things that I was thinking as you brought them up, but I think the main thing is that insecurity piece that you talked about, and the humility. Like, those are two huge things that I think a lot of women struggle with. So that's kind of what I was talking about before, is just that need for security. And where her advice to you was the woman's always right, because sadly enough, that when you say that she is right, and it's like it gives her a sense of validation, and it gives her a sense of security. So it's kind of like you kind of reiterated what I was saying, like that's the struggle that they're having internally, is that they're looking for some kind of, like, trying to protect themselves to a point, you know. And I know that is definitely what I was doing, was like there's this part of me that was trying to protect myself and my feelings, because I didn't want to feel like, I felt like out of control when somebody had hurt me, or he had hurt me in some way, hurt my feelings in some way. And my, like, the way that I was expressing myself, I wanted him to validate my feelings, even if they didn't make any sense at all. But as I grew, I started to realize that that was a lack of perspective on my end. So that's another reason why that women are always feel like they're always right, because they're not open to expanding their perspectives, and open to opening up to more information. Because I do believe that people have a really good reason for why they do what they do. You may not agree with the reason, but they have a really good reason for it. So if they did something that you didn't agree with, and you feel like you're right in your stance on whatever happened, then that is, I guess I would say, a little ignorant, because you want to gather all the information before you draw a conclusion. And I know personally, I am definitely guilty of, like, jumping to conclusions before I have all of the information. That's current, because I'm not a person that is wanting to be fake at all, and trying to act like I know, I got it all together at all. But it's like, I noticed, like, there's a natural tendency for me to jump up to a conclusion of what I think that it is going on, and I don't have all of the information. And I think a lot of women are guilty of
Um,
that.
in some cases, yes. In some cases, no, because there are situations where you would find your spouse or your girlfriend, whoever, would say to you, you know something, um, such and such is the case. Or, for instance, another woman, you're talking to some person or something, and they would say, you need to be careful. This person is trying to catch your attention, or this
Mm-hmm.
person likes you, or whatever. And sometimes, as men, we would say, no, no, no,
Yeah, that's
that's
a
not
good one.
true. But her intuition is so strong because she sees what you're not seeing,
Right.
and you might just play off as, oh, you just, and sometimes when you end up finding yourself in a trap, and it's like, oh shoot, you were right,
Mm-hmm.
but you just couldn't see.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying there are the cases, for instance, when it comes to probably finances in a relationship, the wife might say, we don't need that pillow, but you might say, okay, let's buy the pillow. And the reality is that that money could have gone and done something
Mm-hmm.
else. I'm saying there are situations where, if you would listen to your spouse, you know, uh, as a male, and not believe that, I got this covered,
Mm-hmm.
it will work out. But it goes on the other hand as well. When you, as a female, sometimes listening to your husband and not acting on emotions and how you feel at the time,
Mm-hmm.
things can also work out. So it comes down to how much are we communicating, how much are we really listening to each other. And that's something that I'm learning, because I'll say this, my wife has a keen eye for a lot of stuff.
Oh yes, and I'm so glad
And
you see. Yes.
sometimes I don't see it,
Mm-hmm.
and she sees a whole lot that I don't see and I don't pay attention
Mm-hmm.
to. And a lot of times she is right.
Yeah, and
A lot of times she is right.
you brought up an amazing point that I did not even think of. That one of the reasons why women think they're always right is because our intuition is out of this world. So we have been blessed with intuition, and I think we definitely can see blind spots with things because of our intuition. So when we just say, "Oh, I feel this way," that's why we will argue it tooth and nail as well. Like we will go head to head because a lot of times our feelings are right, but sometimes they're based on previous hurts and pains that we've experienced that we may be recycling. So it just depends on the situation. But if you have a healthy woman, then she's definitely not just recycling, her past experience of trauma and pain. It's just that she really does have an intuitive feeling that this or that may be the case. And most of the time, it is correct. I think Charles even said that in the comments, that he said in that instance she's probably right, because guys, you guys are
Yep.
not, when it comes to other women trying to hit on you and just trying their different little methods, like you guys most of the time don't even catch it, like, oh, it wasn't even that serious. And I feel like sometimes even if you do catch it, you just want to think the best like you don't want to think that that is the case. I even feel like that as a woman, where if my guy is saying this guy is really trying to get with you, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. I think he's been very diplomatic. I think he's been pretty easygoing, speaking to me like I'm a sister in Christ type thing. So I don't see what you're talking about. So I don't even know if it's just I don't even know if that's just a guy thing. I think the other half can always see that part if somebody's trying to
It
slide in.
it works both ways.
Mm-hmm.
But there are the cases though where friends play a part in some of these situations and allow women to believe that they're always right
Yeah,
as well. You know, the influence of friends also plays a part.
that's huge.
And you have situations where, you know, your friends can see you in a happy relationship
Mm-hmm.
and they can start telling you certain things, and by listening to what they experience, and then they try to influence your mind with stuff. And if you're not a person who really sits down and analyze things and think for yourself and look at things, you can start behaving a certain way. So you go home and tell the man, I am not, I am telling you, you need to do this. And I am right by telling you this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm right by telling you that. And you're wondering, where did that come from? But outside influences can cause that as well. And that also helps sometimes in a lot of women having those ideas. And then this idea of women's liberation, women's rights, women's equality,
Mm-hmm.
all of that plays a part as well. But as I said before, because society has moved away from the principles of what was laid down in the Bible, then we're here at this juncture, really and truly.
Okay, it broke up a little bit, so I'm not sure if you just froze for a minute or okay, there you are.
Then she has now, she now will think, how comes you're trying to make me look small, or you're trying to make me feel inferior than you rather than equal to you? And with that in mind, I'm going to build up my defenses. I'm going to start behaving a certain way. I'm going to start feeling a certain way. But the reality is that no one is inferior. All of us are equal. And if we would just listen to each other, we'll see that we're both equal and treat each other as
Mm-hmm.
equals, then we'd be better off. So a lot of that has to do with the experiences of persons. And there are a lot of women who probably gave up, their ability to to be right about this or right about that to a male. And because of that, and they recognize that, this was foolishness. It didn't work out the way they expected it to work out. And that changed the personality. But we need to allow our women to understand that they are our equals and that we can be wrong and they also can be wrong too. And communication solves that problem. But anytime you have a situation where a person believes that they are always right, that's not going to work at all.
Yeah, and I don't think it's necessarily that they believe that they're always right. It's just that sometimes men aren't great at validating, like I said. Validating meaning saying, yes, I heard what you said. Like it will be, I know I've heard it even just in overhearing conversations and in my own personal experience where someone will completely invalidate whatever you're saying, like they don't even hear it, just completely dismiss it. That makes no sense. And that's one of the first things that men do if they don't understand it, is they'll look at you like, what? You don't make any sense. And that's the feeling of inferiority that women begin to experience, because they're telling you, like, that is the worst thing to say to a woman when she's like upset, is like, you don't make any sense. Like that's not what you want to do. If you're trying to communicate, you want to communicate what actually does make sense to you. What I hear you say is, instead of, you make no sense. Like he was like, okay, you're acting like the words that are coming out of my mouth is another language. Like you may not agree with what I'm saying, but simply say, well, this is the part I agree with, this is the part I disagree with, versus saying you make no sense and basically, why are you talking? It kind of comes across that way, and it comes across as condescending as well, because just because you don't understand my point of view yet doesn't mean that you should downplay it. You need to seek to understand and let the woman speak before trying to draw a conclusion as well, and saying she doesn't make sense when you don't really fully understand what she's talking about. And a lot of women, if they're not great communicators, they may talk all over the place. They may talk about the end of the thing and you didn't even know when it started. You're like, okay, so you're mad because I didn't open the door for you? But it wasn't that you didn't open a door for her. It was over a period of time she's been noticing a pattern with this, and this. And then you're confused because she's not communicating in a way that you understand. Hopefully that made sense.
So but that has to do with how you both view each other. Are you listening to each other or not? Here's another scenario. There are situations where you have many relationships with strong women,
Mm-hmm.
and these men have given up their rights to be men, and the women dominates them. And with that, she might have a guy who had done that
Okay, you froze again. So we might miss some of what he's saying. Okay, there he is.
relationship. He Yeah, he steps back, because he doesn't want to lose that woman, or if I don't give in, I won't get sex.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't give in, this wouldn't happen. And okay, honey, you're right, because he knows, look, if I tell you you're right, I'm going to get some later.
Yeah.
These are situations that happen. So she goes along believing that she's right. All of those relationships. And then she meets some person now who is not as weak-minded, or who is not as weak as the others, and who will say, uh-uh, you're not always right.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, whether you give me sex or not, I'm standing my ground. You're not always right. There
Yeah.
are times you're wrong as well, you know, and because of that, that cements in her mind, and she goes along because when you look at it, if that continues to happen, it forms a habit.
Yeah.
Habits become a part of character. Habits become a part of your character. And then she goes along believing, I'm right, because of my past experience or my past experiences. And every relationship she comes to, that's the attitude. But then, you know what? She meets some person that says no, and that causes so much friction
It
in
does.
that
Yeah, it
relationship. It is
does.
crazy. So no one now wants to listen to each other because you're believing you're right. He's saying, no, you're not.
Mhm.
So nobody's listening. And that destroys that relationship. And all it takes for is a little humility. That's
Mhm.
all. I'm going to listen to you. If what you're saying is right, I'm going to say, yes, you're right. If what I'm saying is right, you can say, yes, you're right. Um, Also, if I am right and you're wrong about a situation, then it is simple. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
You were right. That also helps. And for the male as well, if he is wrong and he says to his spouse, to his girlfriend, whoever, you were right, I was wrong, that helps validate her. That makes her feel important as well.
Yeah.
Not that she's all. So it has to do with how you communicate together
Mhm.
and how you view each other. Are you viewing each other as equal or are you viewing each other as inferior one to the other?
Mhm.
And that will solve that problem. But experiences says a lot. And that is why you have to be able now to talk out situations because if you don't talk and you keep your mouth shut, trust me,
Mhm.
women will bully you. Women will
Yeah,
bully you.
I definitely I have not that's not really my style, but I've definitely had friends where I might been a bit you said a couple of things. Let me go back to and then I'll try to pull it back to where we are now. But you said about and men they talk about this a lot, so that's why I didn't want to miss this one where you talked about how women are influenced by their friends and that is true. But one thing that I did want to make sure that this is clear, and I do see a lot of comments and I'm going to get to them, but one thing I did want to make sure that's clear is that women do not act upon their, what their friend said. If they only act upon it is if there's a part of them that agrees with their friend. Because trust me, and ladies, I'm not sure if you can back me up with this, but if you have had the same experience, let them know in the comments that if you do not agree with your friend, you will be like, girl, bye. Like, you're not going to talk me out of my relationship. Like, if you're fully happy with your man, you're nobody can tell you anything. You will fight tooth and nail with everybody, like whether it's your mama, your daddy, whomever. If this man is making you completely happy, like most women are going to make sure that that is known, and they will argue with you it, even if he's not doing everything that he should be doing, if she's just completely in love with this man and there is just like he's in a phase where he can do no wrong, like she's not going to let that influence her and just come home and just start completely flipping the script. Now, if she's already feeling like insecure and not really feeling a relationship in one way or another, and then her girlfriend goes and validates how she's already feeling on the inside. She may not have spoken on it, but she's already thinking it, she's already feeling it a little bit. Then she will go ahead and get the courage to go ahead and say something, and actually maybe prematurely, But some women who are still developing and they may be a little immature in some ways, that is how they move. Because I've definitely been guilty of doing things like that, where like I've already been feeling a certain kind of way, and then my girlfriend say this, and this girl, and then I'm like, yeah, like I'm in agreement with it already. So that's how I ended up getting like super, fired up. And he's like, where's all this coming from? It was already there to begin with. But the last point, and there was so many things that you say, and I can't catch them all. But the last point is that sometimes women think they're always right, just due to immaturity. Like, just not. It takes a mature woman to be humble and to just sit down, you know. And I think when I was in a certain church, I don't know, I don't think any of those church members are on here. We used to say "shut mouth grace." So that's churchy language. So those of you that are not churchy, then all that means is that sometimes you just gotta sit down and shut your mouth. Like, especially if you do not have all the information and your emotions are a little out of control. You just need to sit down, shut your mouth, listen, to have an understanding of where this person is coming from. And then you may need to go pray, meditate, journal, whatever, speak to your spiritual advisors, and then come back and say something. But you really don't need to be speaking until you are really ready to speak in a mature way that does make sense. Because when you're not ready and you're trying to talk, you don't make any sense a lot of times. And that's male or female, honestly. It's not just females.
Um, I've had situations in my relationship with my wife, and she would say something to me, and I would probably like, whatever. And the thing is, she's seeing what I'm not seeing. Um, she would pray about stuff, and things will be revealed to her, and she will share them with me. And I would be like, you know, but when you look at it, she's right.
Mm-hmm.
She's right. She was right. I was wrong. And, you have to eat some humble pie and simply say, you're right, I'm wrong. And that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is the part that I think for a lot really is missing, as you said earlier, where she can be right, but for a male, he might say, you know what? Nah, regardless, even though she's right.
Mm-hmm.
And even though he finds out that she's right, you're still not going back and say, I'm sorry, you're right.
Right. That happens a lot.
And that 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 is a massive.
It froze again. I don't know if you're still making the point, but it did freeze again. There you are.
She's intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
She does see things that
Uh-oh. I'm not sure what's going on with the connection.
you know she sees so much, and then she says X. Trust me, a lot of times she's right about it.
Yeah. With maturity, most of the time women are right, honestly. If you got a mature woman that is secure in who she is, then she's typically, a lot of times she's right, because she's not going to speak on it until she really has that, like, she's prayed about it, she's meditated about it, she's thought about it, like she's went through that process, and she's just not just spewing out whatever thought comes to her mind. So I think I remember what you said. Now what I had a point about that is that, let me say this before we start like looking at comments and stuff and responding to comments. One thing you said earlier is you talked about some men will just say, yes, you're right, the woman, yes, you're right, because he wants to have sex later. And I think a lot of women, I must admit, I just had to validate the point that a lot of women, that is how they function. They know the power of the P, and they are going to use it to their advantage. And I think it's definitely for different reasons, but I think primarily because in some respects, that's all the power she feels like she has. So she's like, okay, he's kind of stronger in this area, in that area, in that area, but this, I have something that he wants. So I'm going to use that to my advantage. So a lot of women do that. And I think that is what a lot of people are referring to when they do say, just say the woman's always right, because that way you don't, like, women don't necessarily, in most cases, you always going to have exceptions to the rules, want sex as much as men. So we can go and be like, it's fine. Like, for a longer period of time. So it's kind of like you're not necessarily, if you want to fight that battle, you're probably not going to win that battle if you go that way. But
I don't agree. I definitely don't agree.
fair enough.
It depends. It
Fair
depends
enough.
on the individual
Yeah, it's exceptions.
because there are situations where you can have individuals who would not be broken by that card. When a woman plays that card, there are persons who would tell you straight, if you don't give me, I can get it from someplace else. So you decide. So the reality is that they don't allow that card to make them weak as to say, you know
Mm-hmm.
what? Let me give you what I want so I can get this. Let me say you're right so I can get this. You know, because they are telling themselves, look, no, I'm not going to allow this. Because here's the thing, when you allow a situation like that once, it is easier to allow it twice
Mm-hmm.
than to allow it three times, right? And then that situation can continue.
Yeah.
Here's just the flip side. You can allow a guy to hit you once. So if you allow it once and you don't put a stop to it now, then he can hit you again. And then he can hit you again.
Yeah.
And that might continue. So it's the same thing. So if you are not thinking rationally in your mind and you're going to allow her to play the card because
Mm-hmm.
you know that this is what you want, and you are so in your mind you're so weak to this, then that can be a problem.
That can be.
That can be a very serious problem. So, but it has to go past that. And if you're not taking it past that, then there are going to be repercussions later on.
Mm-hmm.
Things are going to end up not the way you think it should end up because you give in or you give it your right because this is what I want, and I'm going to say whatever you say is fine, whatever you say is right.
Mm-hmm.
No, God did not create us that way.
Mm-hmm.
And we are all individuals with a brain to think, to analyze, to rationalize, to look at situations. And the same way that you have the right to think and say what you think, I also have the right to say what I think. And if I say what I think, you also have the right to say what you think. And both persons should listen to each other.
Yeah.
The problem is when you don't listen to me and you are trying to push down my throat what you believe and what you think, and you're not listening to me.
Right.
So a lot of times, sometimes, and sometimes us men, we stay silent because some of us don't like arguing and we don't want arguments
Yeah.
and we don't want this or we don't want that. So we keep quiet, and then she believes I won.
Yeah. I'm right.
So I'm right.
Yeah. Definitely.
I'm right. No, that is a serious problem.
Well, I hope some women
That can be
heard this.
problematic.
I really do hope some women heard this as far as the male point of view, is that if you feel like you have that power, then you may run into a man that's saying, well, if you don't give it to me, I'll get it from somewhere else. And some women already feel that way, so they don't do that. But there are women that's like, go on and get it from somewhere else. And I walk out the door and it's just like this, tug of war type of situation. So,
But then,
go ahead.
but then you're gonna have a tug of war all your life,
Possibly. Yeah,
and
possibly.
that doesn't make, and that does not.
We're missing, I'm not sure if you're hearing me, but we're missing some of what you're saying because for some reason on your end it's freezing.
No, I'm saying, do you want to have that tug of war all of your life?
Mm-hmm.
You're going through life having a tug of war because you can't say, I'm wrong, I'm sorry, I admit. You can't say those words. That doesn't make
Mm-hmm.
sense.
Well,
Not at
it's
all.
more of living in the moment. And I think for people that are more mature, then they're thinking of long term. They're thinking of, okay, I don't want to keep doing this. I've been there, done that. So I'm done with it. But people that haven't had a lot of experiences, they're fine with it. Like, long as I won, I'm good. So it just really depends on that individual person as far as how they want to approach